Oh, hello. This is Moundmaker, and this is Anatomy of a Good Run. In this episode, we're taking an in-depth look at one of the core aspects of a good run. Engagement time. At its core, engagement time is a simple concept. You have an enemy. You hit said enemy with a weapon to deliver damage. And once you deliver the proper amount of damage, that enemy dies. This is what I call enemy engagement time. And it's mostly determined by your execution, build power, and a little bit, or even a lot of bit, of luck. This is something anyone could measure right now with a boss fight and a stopwatch. You don't win a war of efficiency by winning one battle though, which is why there's also a run engagement time, which is how much time your total run is spent engaged in combat instead of looting or moving. This one will be determined by the same aspects as your enemy engagement time, but also includes map knowledge and routing. Although these concepts should have at least an abstract framework in most players' heads, it helps to put a label on them. It also helps to put a number on each. The good news, for me anyway, is I already did most of the work 4 months ago, during the creation of my encampment video. I watched runs from 20 good players and recorded how often they engage in combat each run. What I learned is they engage in combat about 50% of the time. Those measurements all came from normal mode though, so this week I wanted to also examine Deep of the Night mode, so I could see if there was a big difference. I examined 5 Depth 5 runs from good players. What I found is there was no difference. They also engage in battle about 50% of the time. It's completely possible to have a good run with much more or even much less engagement time. But on average, 50% of the time is a solid guideline to adhere to. This isn't really something you can measure in your head, but the number is needed for this video and those that come after. Each run was also measured from when the hawk drops the player to the ground and began their expedition to when they finally disengage from combat and move towards the day 1 or day 2 circle. The final average for that time was 750 seconds. And finally, I measured what level good players are at the end of day 1. On average, they were level 10. The 3 numbers, which are what percentage of a run is spent in combat, the time between boots on the ground until heading to the circle, and what level a player is at when they arrive at the day 1 night boss, combine to show us how many runes a player should be earning per second of combat. On day 1, it's 540.6 runes per second. On day 2, it's 707.7 runes per second. All that's left is to take the information we have on how many runes an enemy rewards and divide it by how many runes per second of engagement time we should be shooting for, and we get a ballpark idea of how long, max, you should be taking to kill a boss. There's a spreadsheet in the description that has every boss in the game, their rune value, and how quickly you should kill them to stay within the 50-50 rule. But on average, depending on the day, great church bosses should be killed within 8 to 11 seconds. Fort bosses should be killed within 9 to 12 seconds. Ruin bosses should be killed within 19 to 25 seconds. Encampment bosses should be killed within 21 to 28 seconds. Marsh bosses should be killed within 23 to 31 seconds. Castle enemies should be killed within 36 to 47 seconds. And Blacksmith Village bosses should be killed within 37 to 48 seconds. Everjail bosses should be killed within 42 to 54 seconds. Field bosses should be killed within 53 to 70 seconds. Castle basement bosses should be killed within 63 to 83 seconds. And, finally, castle rooftop enemies should be killed within an astounding 165 to 216 seconds. To clarify those numbers, The lower number is the average time on day 2, and the higher number is the average time on day 1. If you're looking for specific enemies, just take a look at the spreadsheet. Looking over this data reveals why the castle rooftop is so valuable in a good run on the base map. Not only does it have a decent chance to drop a legendary dormant power, but it also gives a ton of runes, and therefore gives you a ton of time to clear the boss. I think a solo player could die 2 to 3 times and still be able to clear the rooftop boss within the allowed time. If they manage to clear it without death, they likely will clear it in less than 2 minutes, possibly even less than 1, which makes reaching level 15 a guarantee unless the rest of the run is full of errors. As long as you engage in battle at least 50% of the time, and pick enemies you can kill within the allowed time, you will always reach level 15. That's as long as you don't lose any runes from death or go crazy at the merchants. Beyond skill and build, to regularly reach level 15 simply requires focus. Since I've started focusing on achieving level 15 every run, it's normal for me to have completed my task midway through day 2 and end up with an excess of 200 to 300,000 runes. Months ago, I regularly finished at level 12 to 13. The main difference is knowledge and focusing on reaching level 15 every run. There are a lot more factors that go into a good run, but time is a ticking clock that hangs above all other concepts. So it's important to get time out of the way first, even if it's obvious. With each episode that follows this one, I'll be updating the spreadsheet in some way. So right now is the barest it will be. Also right now, it only has information for solo runs. But depending on how things go with this series, I may update it for duos or trios, as well as Deep of the Night. In general, the runes will decrease around 10% for duos and around 33% for trios. If you're trying to figure out how quickly you should be killing enemies in one of those modes, you just need to subtract the same percentage of time. In Deep of the Night, enhanced enemies provide around 45% runes, but of course are harder to kill. And that's it. If I were going to assign an organ to how important engagement time is to a run, it would be the heart. And just like the heart, if your engagement time is poor, it's not impossible to make it through the next night, but your chances decrease. And if you snore like me, one night you may not make it to the next day. And then you won't get to play the next FromSoft game, which is the greatest evil there is. So keep your heart healthy and your runs like your heart. I'm Moundmaker. Until next time, take care.